Hey everybody, welcome back to Looking In, Growing Up, Gay, Impoverished, and Forgotten. I know it's been a long time since I've done an episode. To be honest, it's a lot harder than I thought it would be to talk about myself. I'm more of an introvert, and these podcasts are, my way of trying to help break out of that shell. So today, I think I'm just going to, probably ramble on about, growing up in high school and stuff like that. I don't really remember a whole lot. I remember a little bit from like elementary school. We moved around quite a bit when we were young. And as far as, my feelings of being gay, I don't remember them much before middle school. And I think a little bit in elementary school. But let's start in middle school, and I think that's when I first realized. And it all happened because of meeting a boy. And I was fascinated with him. And I had a crush on him. And I've had a crush on him for probably, all through middle school and high school and into college. And, it's a frightening thing when, you're in, our middle school was 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And, when you're in 6th grade and you're starting to have these feelings, it's terrifying, especially when you're going back to, 80, 1980, or 79, somewhere in there. It's hard to express what it was like. Like I said, I started having those feelings, but our family, we grew up being very, very religious, starting with my grandmother. And we did Sunday church all the time. It was a family event. And I remember, going there, my grandmother and my parents. And even in middle school, I, was enrolled in, one of my classes was a actual religious ed. And, all we had to do was walk across the road to St. Leo's Church in Holland Patton. And, so that, that was our belief, you know what I mean? And, when you're told, from a very young age that, as good Christians, you grow up, you get married, and you have kids. That's what you do. And that was just repeatedly, pounded into my head, at least, all the time. And my personality, I've always had a rather strong personality, and, I resist. I'm sure a lot of people who listen to this will agree. I'm not somebody that can be told something. You can ask me to do something, and I'm more than happy to, help you if I can. But, you can't tell me. And that's always been a problem, in school and, in work life. I've had many, I shouldn't say many. I've probably had maybe 3 jobs my entire life. And, at like the age of 23, I bought my first business. But anyways, I ramble on this like I do on our other talk show, Tango Talks. I ramble off topic and I have to be wrangled back in again. But, in middle school, I was terrified probably 3 days out of the week. And by the time, and I just pushed all those feelings down, of course. And by the time I got to 8th grade, I was skipping so many classes and days just because I was terrified to go to school. And, especially gym days. Gym days were the worst because, I and my siblings will attest to this. There wasn't a lot of interaction with our father. So I didn't know how to play sports. I didn't know how to do stuff. And being already terrified in school, I was afraid to ask anybody, you know what I mean? Because of being laughed at, whoa, why don't you know how to play? I was like, well, you don't know our family life. So, but, I made it through middle school and, go on to high school. And high school, I think, was even worse. I managed to control my fear, so I wasn't skipping school. And back in middle school, actually, my mom got called in, and I got called into the principal's office to discuss how many days I was missing. And I think my gym teacher kind of knew, because he was trying to be as flexible as possible, and was very kind, and I think deep down understood what was happening, and didn't report me to the principal's office all the time, and kind of let me sit on the sidelines if I wanted to, or felt I needed to. So I do appreciate that teacher in particular. But back to high school, that's when you really start to notice people that you're attracted to. And I again pushed all that down. And again, it's the difficulty of me trying to talk about my feelings and what happened is, excruciating. Because again, the only interaction I had anyways with my father was, boys don't cry, boys don't do this. And, I remember one time, and I think this was in high school, him sitting down and actually telling me face to face how disappointed he was, because he always dreamed that his first son would be a football star and go to Syracuse, and he could go to the games and be proud of somebody. And I was a graphic artist, and to him that didn't mean anything. That wasn't a career. That wasn't anything you could do anything with. And I'm glad to have disappointed him on that, because I've done very well being a graphic artist and running my own design business. But in high school, it was terrifying every day, but I managed that fear. I had maybe 3 friends that I could talk to, and I found safety with them and solace with them. But there were several people in my class that I was very attracted to, and obviously couldn't express that. It's probably one of the few regrets I have, is not being able to do that. I've talked to friends who were also gay in high school, and they were having relationships, and I was just flabbergasted. I was like, wow, how? Because this is a small country school, and certainly something like that would you'd find yourself beat up on the football field somewhere, but I managed through. It's funny now, because a lot of those friends are really close friends, and it's funny because they always say like, oh, we all knew. I was like, no, you didn't. And they're all like, yeah, we did. It's like, wow, it would have been nice if somebody had told me that you knew and cued me in, because it might have made my high school experience just a little bit easier. I ended up meeting my one and only girlfriend, Lauren, and we had a great relationship for quite a while, and we actually ended up getting married. We had two boys, 2 children, and I adore them completely. My oldest son, I have 3 grandchildren from him, which it's amazing feeling to have grandchildren. And my youngest son ended up being gay also, and is a drag queen in Charlotte. And, he's always fun to be around too, because, we can joke and talk about similar topics. So I was married for about 10 years, and, then it started hitting me that, I think I was 33 and I was having extreme bouts of depression. And, it got to the point where, I was thinking thoughts that I really didn't want to think at the time. And, also at the time, I wasn't talking to my parents. I wasn't, in a close relationship with my siblings, which I really, really missed. And, I got to a dark place, and, I finally, had to, say, listen, I wrote this whole big letter, and, gave it to my wife at the time and said, don't read this till you get home after work. And, in it, I said, all my feelings, and said that I'll be gone by the time you get home, so you won't have to worry about anything. And she ended up coming home early, and we talked, and, we tried to cohabitate for a while, but obviously that's not going to work. It's just an odd thing, And, we ended up, obviously, getting a divorce and separating, but, it was nice to have someone who I had loved and cared for, well over 10 years to, come back and say she kind of figured something was going on, and she never said to me, that she was angry. I'm sure very upset. Who wouldn't be? But she, became kind of like a little advocate, and, understood it. And I think she took like a couple weeks off and went to visit her parents, and I was terrified because her father called me, and I'm like, here we go. This is an Italian-German family. I'm going to be dead somewheres. To my surprise, the first words out of his mouth were, are you okay? And I just kind of sat there on the phone for a little bit, and I was like, what? And he goes, are you okay? I'm like, I'm okay. Why? He goes, I can't imagine how difficult it's been for you to keep this in all this time and put on a happy face, and when people say stuff like that to you, it's easy to say back, it's like, well, when you've done it all your life, it just becomes the norm. So it's not putting on a happy face every day. You just wake up and it's just already your mindset. You're like, okay, another day that I got to pretend that I'm somebody I'm not. And luckily I ended up staying very close to her family. There was a time when me and her, kind of separated out a little bit and kind of fell out of contact. Obviously, when you're going through divorce and you've got child support and, when money's involved, it never makes people happy unless you're getting a lot of it. But, we worked through all that, and, it worked out for the good. I'm guessing, she's remarried now, and doing well. And, both our children are, somewhat young adults. I don't want to say ages, because, I don't want to date myself, but, they're not children anymore. And they're let's just say they're young adults, and we appreciate any time we get to spend with them and our grandchildren. So yeah, I think in the end, everything worked out good. I do remember our class in 1984. I just dated myself. There you go. We have a reunion every 5 years, and we still do it now. And I think it was either the first or second reunion. And I had so many people that I've never talked to even once through all of school, and sit down and say, I'm sorry. And I was like, well, what are you sorry for? We never talked. But they were sorry that I went through what I went through in school, being terrorized, even though nobody ever said anything to me or did anything. But I was still terrorized in my head, in my thoughts. And it was so nice to talk to people and have them say, I wish I'd known, we could have talked, I wish this. And so, it made me feel good at the time, but it would have been nice to know back when I was, 16, 17, or 18, that I had people on my side. Maybe things would have been different. But I always say that, but then I'm always like, well, if things were different, then I wouldn't have sons and I wouldn't have grandchildren and I wouldn't have experienced all that I have, and I definitely wouldn't be the person that I am now. So I don't know if I really have regrets. Sometimes I think I do, but then when I realize what would be different, I'm satisfied with the way things turned out. So I think that's it for this episode, and I think next time maybe I'll talk more about being married and my first date, my first love as a gay man, and those a couple of years there. I was with somebody for 10 years, and we'll see how that plays out. I'll try to make these more often. I do apologize again, but this is a very, very, very hard thing for me to do. I'm not a person who shows emotion, and certainly not one who talks about it and put it out there online. But if you want to chime in, our information's on our website. You can find us online on Podbean is where we host all of our episodes from. And if you just do a search on any listening platform that you're listening to, you do a search for either Tango Talks or Looking In, you should be able to find us. I'll put some information on the site about this episode once it's posted. And I really, really appreciate everybody listening in and any support. Thank you very much.